Here we go. Championship weekend is upon us. We are previewing and making picks for the AFC and NFC championship games, and another domino falls in the coaching carousel of the 2024 offseason. Raheem Morris named head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. All that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love all the everydayers out there. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get 150 in bonus bets guaranteed, and all you got to do is place one $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, another coach hired in the NFL, Matt, and it is Raheem Morris to the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to finish with that one. We're going to start, though, with the biggest story of this weekend, which is trying to crown conference champions, Matt, and it is the Kansas City Chiefs at the Baltimore Ravens early, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. And then the Detroit Lions at the San Francisco 49ers, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific time. So we will go chronologically and start with the AFC and get into this one, Matt. The line fluctuating a little bit, and both home teams' lines are growing as the week goes along, Matt. Does that surprise you? We're seeing 3.5, 4, looking at FanDuel right now, and we always go by the FanDuel lines. 3.5 points are the Baltimore Ravens favored over the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, it seems about right. I mean, frankly, I think both these lines are pretty much dead on, and I'm having a hard time, not necessarily picking winners, but in terms of picking, against the spread. That extra half is looming, obviously. So if we focus on Chiefs-Ravens, the quarterback matchup is remarkable. I mean, it's as good as it gets, just like last week with Allen and Mahomes. I mean, these are elite, maybe all-time type guys, multiple MVPs and maybe multiple trophies and, who knows, and when their careers are all done. But frankly, I think the best units on the field are the Ravens and Chiefs defenses. And I think they might be the best two defenses in the whole league. I mean, I think Baltimore's definitely is. And I could say this 8,000 times in this conversation, but they have Mahomes and he's special, and I don't want to bet against him. But they have Mahomes and he's special, and I don't want to bet against him. And that carries so much weight. But I'm having a hard time finding a lot of matchups in the Chiefs' favor other than magic fairy dust of Mahomes. I don't think Kelsey's going to have a big game against Hamilton and Roquan and and Queen. And I really feel like a Hardman or a Valdez-Scantling has to come up big, and I don't trust them at all, even if the ball hits them right in the numbers, But and can they run on Baltimore? So. And the Chiefs D is really daunting. I mean, their cover guys should handle this group of receivers well. But Lamar handles the blitz incredibly well. I do think they'll have success running. I like the Ravens in this game, and I'm going to lay the points. But they have Mahomes, and he's special, and I don't want to bet against Mahomes.
I mean, the Ravens are favored for a reason. And
yeah, they're really good.
You look at DVOA numbers. Ravens were best in the league. They were basically a historically good football team this year, and best defense in the NFL. You look at whatever it is, PFF grades as well.
Yeah.
The
EPA, whatever, right.
Number one team. Yeah, you like the numbers and the stats. Even if you don't listen to the stat nerds, it all matches up with the eyeball test and what we've seen from the Baltimore Ravens. They were the best team in the league this year. They have the MVP at quarterback this year in Lamar Jackson. Will be shocked if he doesn't win that award. And they match up really well against the Chiefs, I think. And I think you nailed it with the best units on both sides or in both teams is the defenses. And in fact, over under 44.5 points, I feel like it has to be an under game, right?
I think it's the quarterback's the only reason you don't. I mean,
Right.
it's the same argument for why you wouldn't pick against the Chiefs. Like, can you really hold Lamar and Mahomes to like 23-20 type of game? It might go that way for 3 quarters and then the dam breaks, you know?
Yeah, we see it last week. And
Yeah, exactly.
Mahomes starts doing his thing, running around, making plays. He runs around a lot differently than Lamar Jackson does, but he finds a way to make huge plays, scrambles around with his legs, makes a throw, and just starts creating in the playoffs even more than he does in the regular season. And that's why playoff Mahomes is so difficult. And looking at his career as an underdog, Mahomes is 9-1-1 as an underdog in his career. And I am not going to bet against that track record. I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes. I think this is a close game, and I think it could be low scoring, at least for most of it. And if he has to just play hero ball at the end of the game and throw back in it, I think he can get close as well. So I'm getting more than a field goal, 3.5. I'm absolutely taking the Kansas City Chiefs against the spread in this one, and I do think it's going to be very close. So I will say, because I said, and I got to stick with it, the Baltimore Ravens are the better team. Baltimore by a field goal, which means you still win that bet. So kind of on the fence on this one, and it should be an awesome game. I love seeing the battle of superstar quarterbacks, and we saw it last week with the Chiefs and the Bills. We've seen it in the past as well. And that's what makes the AFC so fun when it gets to this portion of the postseason. Lamar Jackson, a healthy Lamar Jackson, playing some of his best football, pass and run, against a very complete team, against a team that is so hard to knock off. They got the boogeyman in Patrick.
Oh, man.
So I like the Ravens by 3. So if I'm getting 3.5, I'm going to put my money on Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going the other way, but I don't feel strong about it. I think that line is scary. If it was 2.5, I'd feel great. I wouldn't feel great. But you mentioned by a field goal, 2 really good kickers in this game, but special teams overall does favor the Ravens. I mean, it almost always does. They're great in that phase. At home, nasty place to play, but is Mahomes' heart going to beat any faster being in Baltimore? Probably not, you know.
It was fine in Buffalo last week, and
exactly.
Jumping through tables, and the weather's bad, and so he's battle tested. I don't know if that's gonna matter much. Can his playmakers make a play? And
that's the thing I keep bringing back. Yeah,
you need 2 touchdowns to Travis Kelce, right? But you got Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen and Hamilton on the other side. Like, if any team matches up against Kelce, it's the Baltimore Ravens.
100%. And I just think the Ravens' weapons, pass catchers, not necessarily ball carriers, Lamar side, are way better. You know, Andrews is back, Likely, Flowers, Beckham, Bateman. Like, that's a lot to throw at you. And I like the way Lamar's throwing the football. So I think this is not a coming of age, but this is a statement game for Lamar. You know,
it's huge. It's the best opportunity Lamar's had. It's the best opportunity Harbaugh and the Ravens have had in the Lamar era of the Baltimore Ravens. And this could be, that defining moment for Lamar Jackson, MVP season, beating Patrick Mahomes on your way to the Super Bowl. That's the storyline that is pretty compelling, and that Ravens fans obviously are rooting for. And they were the best team in the league this year. So I'm fascinated by this game. It's a lot of fun. I cannot put my money against Patrick Mahomes, though.
I said it 100 times, except they have Patrick Mahomes, and I don't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes. You know, that's brutal.
Next, we've got NFC side of things. By the way, so just real quick, to wrap up we'll talk a little bit about quarterbacks, because everyone loves to talk quarterbacks, and it's such a difference in who's playing quarterback in the NFC Championship game versus the AFC Championship game. And that's not to say that Jared Goff and Brock Purdy haven't played great this year and aren't really good quarterbacks, but just the star power of the AFC side,
it's not
right?
The same,
like the last pick in the draft versus the cast off number 1 pick in Jared Goff on the other side. With the way that they're playing, do you think it's that much of an advantage right now for Mahomes? Because we've talked so much about the boogeyman in Mahomes, and we're not going to bet against Mahomes. Lamar Jackson's one of the hardest players in the NFL to play against, maybe even harder to play against than Patrick Mahomes if you don't see him often. And he played like an MVP this year. So is it possible that maybe the Chiefs don't have an advantage at quarterback?
They do, just because he has rings in the postseason stuff and been there, done it. And who do you want in a big game? Nobody ahead of Mahomes right now. But I think the same is true last week. I mean, Allen, Jackson, Mahomes are true superheroes. I mean, those guys are special specimens, mental makeup, physical, all the above. A little quick note. I heard this. I just wanted to say it before we moved on to the other game. You mentioned Mahomes as a scrambler. I heard someone describe him I don't know what he runs in the 40, but he's 1 mile an hour faster than anyone catching him in the playoffs. It's exactly what he is.
He relies on it so much more in the playoffs too. Just makes plays when he has to, gets around, moves, throws the ball, scrambles, gets down. It's really fun to watch. So here we go. It's going to be fun. AFC Championship.
The other guy runs pretty well too, though.
Yeah, a little bit. He's like 10 miles an hour faster than anybody trying to chase him. All right. NFC Championship game next. We're making picks to see who goes to Super Bowl 58 and a new head coach hire in the NFL as well. Next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest, big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you, and that small thing can become a big thing. It's why it's so important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life. There could be any number of things going on in your life. I know it's happened with me, and just life happens. Life happens fast. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a big thing, or it doesn't have to start as a big thing. Job is always a big one. Life, relationships, obviously. Sometimes, and in reality, and Matt, we encounter a lot of fans. I think sports fans sometimes you need to let that out and talk through it. Sometimes this podcast could be therapy, but you need to talk to a professional about some of these things, especially if whatever it is, sports included, is making your life less fun. And those big things, those small things are growing into big things inside of you. So if you think about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. All you got to do is visit betterhelp.com/lockedon and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All the lines we reference on this podcast are from FanDuel. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. And all you got to do is place your first $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose on that first $5 bet. We're talking about live game, same game parlays. Find tons of new bets in the Explore tab. Every sport you can imagine, of course, yes, well covered for betting options for Championship Sunday. Obviously, we've got the lines, Niners and Ravens favored, but how about some championship specials? Each team to score 1+ passing touchdown in both Championship Sunday games. Not the greatest odds there, but you want to go up to, let's say, 250-1 odds at FanDuel. How about any three of Brandon Ayuk, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rashee Rice, and Sam Laporta all each score twice on Sunday? I mean, tons of great prop bets for both championship games, so you can find it all at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon, and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, NFC time. Detroit Lions at the San Francisco 49ers. And this line, like the other, has grown a little bit. And I have a feeling, Matt, that maybe the lines for both AFC and NFC championship games, they started at, I believe, 2.5 and 6.5. And they've both gone up about a point. Late money coming in the other way, maybe. Am I crazy about this? Because I just can't believe that it's over a field goal and over a touchdown now. 7.5. The 49ers are favored over the Detroit Lions.
All right. So not as sexy of a quarterback matchup. You can't get any sexier than what the Mahomes has faced this last week and this upcoming one.
Well,
but I think it's all – what's that?
That is Brock Purdy disrespect. Have you not seen the guy's crap?
But I think it's going to be all about efficiency with these guys. Make the throws that are there. Don't screw it up. Play within yourself. Don't try to be a hero because you're not quite a superhero. You're a really good player. You're an efficient player. Get the ball to your great weapons. I think the O-line matchup favors the Lions, and I'm a big believer that good O-lines travel. I also think that just reading some of the Aaron Schatz stuff, that the Niners can be run on, but especially on the outside. Like I'd be very interested in Jahmyr Gibbs in DFS this week. But the middle of the field is a no-fly zone, and that's Laporta and St. Brown land, and that scares me a lot from the Lions' perspective. I could see Goff trying to squeeze things in where they shouldn't because just that's how the Lions do business. So I think the Lions' run game is instrumental in this. And on the other side of the ball, I don't think people look at the Lions defense and realize how good they are against the run. But the biggest weakness any team has in this is their secondary, their corners, to me. I mean, Cam Sutton's a former Steeler, wish him well. They treat him like he's Sauce Gardner, which he isn't. I mean, like, they're short there. And even if Debo doesn't play, and I think the Debo factor is big, I think the Niners have too many weapons.
A couple of big ones on the injury report for this game, too. Let's get that out of the way with Debo Samuel. And on the other side, one of the most underrated players in the league maybe is Lions center Frank Ragnow that hadn't been practicing this week. So we'll see if both those guys go. The latest is on Thursday, Debo Samuel did have a jersey on and was on the field limited, moving his arms around with that shoulder above his head, making catches, and that tells me he's playing. So Debo Samuel, to me, it went from, man, I don't know if he's going to play because he had this same injury earlier on in the year, didn't return to the game last week. He was out 3 weeks last time with this injury midseason, but the imaging was good. There's nothing broken, torn in his shoulder, which means it's a pain tolerance thing. And if it's a pain tolerance thing in the NFC Championship game, you're playing, and they're going to find a way to get you on the field. And getting that limited practice in, especially on Thursday, was big for me. So I'm considering Debo Samuel 100% in and going to play this game. Now, will it be a Debo Samuel heavy game plan? I'm not so sure about that, but having him on the field is massive. And
I'm sure he's not getting many design carries and that stuff. But that's got dropped a lot anyway. But
he's not going to return the opening kickoff, which is where he got hurt last week, right? He's probably not going to have kick return duties, but maybe he will. I mean, this is a big game, and obviously Kyle Shanahan thinks he's the guy that they want the ball in his hands as much as possible. So who knows? Maybe. And Kyle Shanahan usually, when the docs say, "Hey, this player can play," he doesn't bat an eye, and he uses them to their fullest extent. So we'll see if that's the case with Debo Samuel, but relatively healthy here. And those are, and Frank Ragnow, that's huge in the middle. The way he wants to run the football. And that's where the Lions can beat the 49ers is in their run game against the 49ers run defense. Cause you talked about the pass defense and the corners on the outside for the Lions. It's been the same story. They've had a really tough time with run fits at times this season. And we saw it last week with a very similar style running game from the Green Bay Packers that was hitting the 49ers with big plays. So big plays in the running game, I'm actually worried about more than those in-breakers, which we're going to see a lot of from both teams in the passing game, because I think the 49ers can allow, 10 catches to Amon-Ra St. Brown, just tackle him after he catches the ball over the middle of the field. If Jahmyr Gibbs gets outside on these pin and pull plays and big plays and is gouging you in the run game, that's where it's going to hurt the 49ers defense, I think.
Yeah, and Chase Young hasn't been a massive difference maker, and I think those
in the run game too, he freelances too much. And here's one aspect of the game I love for the 49ers, and it's not because Jared Goff and home and road Goff. You can say what you want about Goff in big games, and he needs a clean pocket and all this, and I think some of it's true. And most quarterbacks aren't better when they're getting pressure, but Jared Goff isn't going to kill you if you're not in your pass rush lanes. And the 49ers have played a lot of quarterbacks this year where, it's just an increasingly amount of quarterbacks in the NFL who can get out on the move and hurt you if you're not rushing in your rushing lanes and keeping contained on a quarterback. You don't have to do that with Jared Goff. So if the 49ers can stop that run and put Goff in third and long, they can pin their ears back and really go get him. And that's the strength of their defensive line, and not worry about rush lanes and just go get Jared Goff and hunt him. And that's the recipe for a big 49ers win.
So players aside, everyone knows Shanahan's a marvelous coach and Campbell's a great motivator and tough guy and easy to root for and all those things. But they both worry me a little on game day. Shanahan can get in his own head and get a little too cute. And when Debo goes out, why don't we just go to Ayuk or McCaffrey? He can outsmart himself. And Campbell can.
Week, I was pulling my hair out.
I bet.
You already knew it was going to rain. And he's like, let's bring it all over the field. You're like, what are you doing? You got Christian McCaffrey here. And I think that was a big part of it, because I think it was a Debo-centric game plan. Debo gets hurt early in the game in the first quarter, and he kind of just stuck. You got the script, and he kind of just stuck with it, and he was kind of going to the air. The ball's weird coming out of Purdy's hands. Not going to be wet on Sunday this week. And I really expect the Purdy bounce back. So his game plan from last week is kind of what I expect this week, which means he's probably going to just flip that, and it's going to be a run-heavy game plan when I don't expect it. Because I do think this could be a Purdy to Brandon Ayuk type of a game. That's what I expect here because the Lions are going to do everything they can. They're better at stopping the run than the pass. They're going to make sure they stop Christian McCaffrey first, which could open up some space in the back end for maybe some Debo catch and run, some Kittle catch and run. But especially, it feels to me like this is a big Brock Purdy bounce back game, and to kill some of the narratives from last week. And Brandon Ayuk's probably that sneaky play in your daily fantasy leagues.
But where I was going to, though, is Campbell worries me a little, though, too. Like, he might just be like, we're going for it on every fourth down. I'm going to block,
ultimate aggression.
Yeah.
Go for it. House money.
Emotion takes over.
Let's do it.
Surprise on side. Let's bring the house on an 11-man blitz. Screw them. Just letting emotion get the better of them. I will see. But coaching's going to come into it in this one.
By the way,
more so than the AFC side. Like, I kind of know what Harbaugh and Reed are. They've been there, done it,
So we got to make the picks. What do you think? 7.5 points, 49ers favored over those Detroit Lions.
Reluctantly going to take Niners minus 7.5. I think they have more advantages. I like the Debo situation. Don't love the Ragnow situation. Quick rewind. I wanted to mention Thuney might be out for Kansas City too, and that's a big deal. So
huge.
Big offensive line injury is not the time for it,
Terrible time for those, for Ragnow and Thuney. We'll see if they end up playing for those Lions and Chiefs respectively. I'm gonna make the same pick I made for the other game. I like the home team. I like the favorite to win the game, but I do think it's going to be closer than what the line says, especially getting that touchdown and a half. I've got the Niners by 6. I think this one's going to go over. I think the other game has a chance to go under, especially early in the game. So I'm going over 30-24 49ers.
Okay. Be a good one.
It'll be fun. It'll be a whole lot of fun. And can't wait to see who advances to Super Bowl 58. And of course, Monday we'll be back to break it all down. But next, we got to talk about the newest head coach in the league, Matt. It is Raheem Morris and the Atlanta Falcons next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. How easy is Prize Picks? Well, all you do is you pick 2 to 6 players, and you're playing against the numbers. You're not playing against other players and pros in a huge pool with sharks in it trying to take that hard-earned. You are picking more or less than 2 to 6 players on just the stat projections at Prize Picks, and then you can watch that winnings roll in. We're talking about 25 times your money if you hit on all of your picks at Prize Picks. Turn $10 into $250 at Prize Picks. And with basketball season and NFL football, there's tons of combo games you can play as well. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce, 10.5 combo of 3 points made plus receptions on Sunday. Prize Picks also has a reboot policy that nobody else in the DFS industry has. If a player goes out injured in the first half, doesn't return the second half, that player is rebooted. So play with confidence. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL, or download the Prize Picks app. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Raheem Morris, he got a lot of interest, a lot of interviews. He absolutely deserved another shot as he was so young when he got his first head coaching opportunity. Has coached with the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's coached offensive sides of the ball as an assistant. He's coached the defensive side of the ball as an assistant. Phenomenal job as defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams this year. Well respected. Everyone that's been around him loves him. And I love it for the Falcons. I love it for Raheem Morris. He deserves his shot, and he's got a really good opportunity to make good his second time around. Maybe the first time around wasn't a great opportunity and a little too soon, and a team that was being torn down from some glory, a long period of glory there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Said it really well. I couldn't agree more. This really has nothing to do with Belichick. I mean, I thought he was going to get that job, and who knows what happens now. We'll talk about that Monday, but probably Tuesday, whatever. It's all about Morris and the Falcons, and I think it's a great fit. I think he's going to be a highly successful coach, extremely bright. You mentioned it too. He has been a head coach, much like Belichick, actually. Didn't really succeed, and then the next stop, you learn a lot more and did a lot of different stuff in between. Like you said, he coached a little bit on offense. He's been a ton of different defensive schemes, and
he's been around so many other good coaches too.
Right. just rubs off on each other,
Right. Yeah. And it's an iron sharpens iron situation. And it goes back to, that famous graphic that shows all the coaches with Washington under Mike Shanahan. And Raheem Morris has that same lineage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just a personal thing. I mean, not really personal. It's not like I'm buddies with him, but him and Tomlin are like best friends. Coach Tomlin brings it up all the time. Like, I don't know how he is not a head coach. I mean, he's an easy slam dunk for the hire. And my last thing on it is, I mean, think about the jokes we made in preseason week 1, Aaron Donald, and name 2 other Rams defensive players. You know what I mean? I mean, they were guys knowing yeast and people no one had ever heard of, and they got very respectable, I mean, that's phenomenal work.
Absolutely phenomenal. The most with the least, right? And that's why you're seeing Sean McVay's name on Coach of the Year lists and Raheem Morris on Assistant Coach of the Year lists because of what they were able to do, and especially the no-name nature of the defensive side of the ball for the Rams. It was a phenomenal job there. And then, we're hearing, maybe they'll steal a couple other guys from the Los Angeles Rams coaching staff, and we'll see what kind of staff he puts together there. But I love the hire. I didn't necessarily see it coming because it was like, Belichick interviewed and Harbaugh interviewed, and then someone's coming in tomorrow and it's like, nope, never mind. It's going to be Raheem Morris. And some of these interviews are so quiet and you don't know who's going where, and you're hearing all the Bill Belichick reports, and he's got to take a year off, right? Like, where's the spot for Belichick? I haven't even heard about him interviewing anywhere else.
Buffalo. I remember our conversation yesterday. I can't come up with anyone else. I think Washington's going to be Johnson, and Seattle's not going to bring in another 70-plus-year-old guy. I don't think he's going to coach, probably.
The McDermott family doesn't listen to this podcast. Matt's just out here calling.
I'm just axing them left and right. You mentioned, assistants, Zach Robinson, somebody that actually interviewed with the Steelers as offensive coordinators, kind of keep my fingers crossed that they might hire him. I would think he would make a lot of sense as Atlanta's offensive coordinator. I mean, he's a pretty impressive young guy too.
Who's winning big right now is Pro Football Focus. Bobby Sloan, formerly PFF analyst. He did a lot behind the scenes to help them with how they currently grade players. And it's funny that JJ Watt, Texans guy, is the one that came out and was mad about the grades for Bobby Sloak's quarterback, CJ Stroud. I found that whole thing fascinating. It's really funny. And Zach Robinson, before he moved on to Los Angeles, was at PFF as well, doing a similar thing. So,
and then you mentioned this yesterday, the Texans quarterback coach, Rod Johnson, he's interviewing as we speak with the Steelers for their offensive coordinator. So, if people are getting pillaged left and right, there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of coordinator spots open. But back to Morris, I think it's a tremendous hire. I commend them. I think that they're maybe the favorite already in the South. I mean, they got to find a quarterback, of course.
Yep. Love it. Real quick note that I just saw before we went on was Dave Canales. So he was hired as the head coach off of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster to the Carolina Panthers now, and 6-year deal. And I just saw the 6-year deal thing, and first time head coach, 6-year long contract. And I thought, oh yeah, the agent's like, okay, if you're going to pull some crap, David Tepper, we're not going to have offsets. You're going to pay him a lot of money for a long time.
When you fire him in week 10, that's insane. But I mean, Tepper doesn't care about the money, right?
He wants to get the right guy. If they found the right guy, then that's all that matters there.
All that matters.
And hopefully, personalities are able to work that out for young Bryce Young in Carolina. So we're down to only 2 openings: the Seahawks and the Washington Commanders. And one of those teams is going to hire Ben Johnson, probably Washington. It sounds like now, and they're just waiting for that season to end for the Lions. And it's funny because Washington fans are probably rooting for the 49ers right now because they want their head coach, their next head coach, to be available to come in-house and have that final interview and maybe take the job. It feels like
hiring people, right?
And you got to get that assistant staff going as well.
Yeah, these coordinators are going to start falling like flies too.
And a lot of it, what's crazy? It seems insane to do it this way and maybe short-sighted, but I think some teams don't wait. They're favorite.
They get nervous.
Still playing, but they're so afraid of filling out the rest of it that they hire who's available. And sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong, but that absolutely happens.
Oh, it absolutely happens. You jump the gun. someone's going to steal our guy. I better jump on somebody now. And a lot of it's because those new head coaches have to build out their staff,
Right.
and if I don't hire this guy, if I have to wait 3 weeks until after the Super Bowl, all the good coordinators are going to be gone. And then it's putting him behind the 8 ball, and then you don't get a job.
Especially if you have a defensive minded head coach, because what happens is you interview all these people and you ask those head coach candidates, who are your candidates for offensive coordinator? Who are you looking at? How are you going to build your staff? That's one of the questions that you're going to be asked in those interviews. And if you keep hearing the same name at offensive coordinator popping up and you see that name interviewing and you haven't hired your head coach yet, you want to get that guy in home.
They drop quick, right? Like that could hurt. The Ravens defensive coordinator. If they win this week, that's a 3-week rest, and maybe there's only one job out there for them.
All right, we're going to break it all down from Championship Sunday. Who advances to Super Bowl 58? 49ers, Ravens, Lions, Chiefs. We'll talk about it all Monday, and probably some new head coaches as well next week right here. Peacock and Williamson.